Welcome to the Making Money in the Music Business podcast, where we share insightful views on a variety of topics in the music industry that can help you make more money from your music business. And now, here are your hosts, Dr. William E. Smith and Kenya McGuire Johnson.
Hey, Kenya, we are back.
Hi, Dr. Smith. How you be? How you is?
I be all right.
You be all right. Good. We're back and we have another guest. And what's really exciting, usually our guests, it's like, oh, I kind of know them. I don't know her personally, so I'm really excited. That means I get to know her today. I've gotten to know her music very well, and I'm loving it. But so I'm excited.
Awesome. I'm excited too.
Well, I get excited.
Well, I know. And I know I'm excited because she's a DC artist, and we'll talk about some of the musicians, but it's all family here. So we all have a lot of love.
DMV, lots of love for the DMV. So, but before we get into all the goodness of that, music tip. Yes.
We should have
if he scrambles, y'all, I'm gonna tell on you today. He was scrambling. He's like, I don't got my music
No, I actually have a whole bunch of music tips. I just couldn't find my file that had them on.
Find your file. Okay.
So, but this came from this week. I was talking to my students about production, and I was trying to help them learn how to create proper string arrangements inside of their songs and their productions. And I had to find something quick for them, which was something free for them to download because they're students. They're working on a smaller budget. So there's an article on Lander, their blog, where you have, I think they have a list of 6 free VST plugins that you can download for your digital audio workstation. So
nice.
If you're on Pro Tools, Logic, or Reason or Cubase, you can download these VSTs, and they are string and orchestral VSTs that you can use. And one of the main things I wanted to show the students is how to use, and it's getting a little technical for folks, but
I'm gonna be like,
what's
go
a
ahead,
VST? Yeah, but no, it's a virtual studio instrument, and but they have you can use key switches to create all the dynamics and everything that strings use. So that's what I do in my production, and I was trying to teach them how to do that. And so there's a couple great free orchestral plugins that people can use. So we'll put a link to that in the show notes. So those of you all who are producers, have at it.
Awesome. And speaking of producers, because I know we have a lot of producers that actually listen to our podcast. So I love that I actually appreciate your techie, because I would not be able to provide this to them. But the female producers out there, we need to hear from you. We need to hear from you. If you're a female producer, if you're a female sound engineer, can you please email us at 3mbpodcast@gmail.com and send us a link to something, because I would love to get a female producer up on the show. So
I know a couple. So,
okay, well, you need to.
Well, more than a couple. I know some in the DC community that are our chapter president for Grammys. Elise Perry.
Oh, Elise she's a music producer. I know Elise Perry does a lot.
Yeah.
I know Elise. I have reached out to Elise, so we're still working on Elise. Still working. If you hear us, Elise, it's another another clue. All right, awesome. Thank you. We'll make sure we include that in the show notes.
Yep.
So like I said, this podcast has been very organic for Will and I, which is probably some of the best way to do pretty much anything, because then, when you get these cherries and frostings and things on top, it's like, we have a cherry, we have some frosting. And so one of the things as we're kind of growing and moving, we're both musicians. So obviously we have a lot of connections and we're able to reach out to people. But what's happening more now, which is really wonderful, is that different people and artists and their reps and so forth are reaching out to us and wanting us to, consider. And this particular artist, I've listened to her music for a long time. And because I didn't personally know her, I said, oh, I'll wait a minute because she'll be like, who's this reaching out to me? So it was really nice that her team, reached out, and I'm really excited. She has an amazing, gorgeous, beautiful voice. And I want to hear more about the person behind the voice. And I've also been stalking her IG just a little bit. And I think that she's going to fit in really nicely with Will and I and our woo-woo and meditation and self-care and love up own spirit. Yep, I felt all of that. So I want to welcome. Hi, Cecily. Welcome.
Hey, Cecily.
Hi. Thank you for having me, guys. I'm happy to be here.
Absolutely. Awesome. Yeah, Cecily is an amazing singer. And really what I think I love so much about your singing and really listening is it's your singing. It's a pure, actual melodic voice. And, she's got her own style and doing her own moments. But I think one of the things that's happening with singers right now is we're losing the singing. We're like, I just want to hear the voice. Just give me the voice. Just give it to me, whatever it is. Don't give me a bunch of tricks. Give me moments of tricks. I love moments, make me a little bit here or there. But that's, I think, and it was listening to your music is very reminiscent for me of listening to actual, when Black music in the 70s and the 80s, when we really got into the lyric along with the music. So I'm excited. If you could just share with our audience, start us off by telling them what it is you say, what it is you do, and how you got into music.
Yeah. Well, firstly, thank you. Thank you welcome. For that, the kind words and all of that. Yeah. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I'm glad that you hear that 70s influence, because that's definitely me all the way.
Yeah.
My name's Cecily. I'm born and raised in the DC area, or as we like to say, area.
Area.
And how did I get into music? Well, I guess it started when I was I'll say this. I was raised on music, a lot of 70s soul music, 80s music, and also 90s R&B and hip hop. And I'm the youngest. I'm the youngest of my siblings. I'm the youngest of my first cousins. I'm like the baby of the family. Well, not anymore, but I was for a long time. So I was definitely raised on the music of older folks, of my parents and my older siblings and cousins. And that's kind of what I grew up loving. And so I'll start there. I got into music through my family. I think none of them are really musicians, but they raised me on good music. So I'm blessed for that exposure. And I guess it was around age 12 or 13, I wanted to take voice lessons. And I asked my mother this, and to her it came out of nowhere because I didn't really sing in front of anyone. I was in the church choir, the youth choir, but I didn't sing solos. Like, I just stood in the back and did my little part, and that was it. But I really loved to sing. I was too nervous to do it in front of anyone. But I had seen this flyer that said voice lessons were coming to my local community center. And so I asked my mom if I could take voice lessons, and she asked me if I could sing. And I was like, yeah, I can sing, which I don't think is fair, because if you say I want to take piano lessons, nobody says, well, can you play piano?
Right.
But the voice is different. People feel like you have to have something innate. So anyways. Right. So I sang something for her in the kitchen, and she was like, okay, you could take voice lessons. And that was the start
hilarious.
of it. That was the start of it. I didn't think I wanted to do music as a career. I didn't come to that till maybe age 20, I think, 19 or 20. But it was always my main extracurricular. It was always what I spent most of my time doing outside of school or even in school. You know, I was in all the choirs, classical courses and the gospel choirs and the a cappella groups. I was in 2 different a cappella groups. I was in everything.
Awesome.
And it wasn't until I, you know, really got into studying. I really thought I wanted to be a diplomat and work in international relations. So that's what I went to school for. But after like a year and a half of studying all that stuff, I realized that my heart was really in music and that what I really wanted to do was, you know, just help people. That's always what I wanted to do. And so I felt like I could do that through music too. And so I did finish my degree because I still found, you know, that stuff really interesting. But, you know, I had decided maybe around age 19 or 20, I really wanted to pursue music. I don't think I knew how difficult that would actually be when I made that decision. I was a little naive.
Yeah.
But, you know, I graduated. I moved back home to D.C. from where I went to school outside of Philly. And I just kind of jumped into the scene. I started going to a lot of open mics. You know, I started going to a lot of jazz jam sessions, which was new for me because I didn't really sing jazz. But, you know, I met a lot of people there and they encouraged me. So I kept learning standards and kept coming back. And
Nice.
yeah, that's just how it started. And then eventually, you know, people that I went to the open mics, they invited me to do the feature, come back and be a feature. And then people that saw me at the feature invited me to come, you know, do a little set at their event. And it just kind of grew that way. And I am really, really lucky that my family has always been really supportive. And so while I was figuring everything out, I kind of always knew that, you know, I wouldn't fall flat on my face. Or if I did, somebody would come pick me up. So I was really lucky in that regard. But yeah, that's the long answer of how I got into music.
Nice.
Yeah,
Nice.
That's awesome. Well, I would say just looking at that early part of your life, I guess a couple things that I want you to sort of go deeper into. And one is how important do you think it was that these I guess formal groups, you might call them, the choirs, the a cappella groups, being able to listen and train your voice in those settings, how important, and I mean, it's an obvious answer, but I want you to go, I guess, into how you use those skills that you developed now. And then the second part, I want you to also go into, I'll say the second part, just focus on that.
See, his professorship comes in. I'm like, we ain't going to remember all.
Two-part question.
Two-part question.
Yeah, nothing to do with each other. Yeah, I'm going to say the second part, but go ahead and talk about that one.
Yeah, I think that foundational training was crucial for me. I think in particular, one thing that comes to mind is through taking voice lessons and doing the recitals,
right,
I was really able to get past my stage fright. Because I remember the very first voice recital I ever did, I could barely breathe. Like, and you know, it's very hard to do anything when you can't breathe, but especially sing. And I remember I almost felt like I was hyperventilating, but I made it through. And I think that was just a good practice for me in terms of just getting up there, getting used to being in front of people, you know, and trying to tell a story with the song. And that was something that my high school teacher really emphasized, is the acting part of it. Because I took classical voice, so I was singing a lot of art songs, a lot of arias, you know, and they're from opera, so they're a story, you know, they're a piece of a story. And so she was really big on understanding the story, even if you're singing in Italian or German or whatever, French, understanding the words, understanding the story, understanding the piece that you're playing in that story. And so I think that for me has been really key and has really carried into everything else I've done in terms of just understanding how to be in front of an audience, how to really tap into the emotion of a song.
Yep.
And then in terms of with choir, I mean, I think one thing when I started in choir, my freshman year in high school, I was an alto 2. I went to all girls school, so it was all girls choir. I was an alto 2, which is the lowest voice part for a woman.
I'm going to say, wait a minute. I listened to you. I'm like, what?
Because I could hit the notes, So she was like, okay, you're going to be an alto 2. I was like, cool. And I think that was really useful for me because that really trained my ear. Mm-hmm. Because when you sing alto or soprano 2, you are usually singing like a really interesting note. In that chord. And so I think that was really good for me in terms of ear training. And then eventually my voice teacher found out that I was singing alto 2 in choir and told me, no. You go tell your choir director that you are a soprano 1.
I said, you're a soprano 1 easily.
But I was so mad because soprano 1 felt hard for me because she was like trying to get me, to really sing, get more freedom, more comfort, more stamina in my upper register. And I just felt that singing high was hard, and I was like, I don't want to have to sing high all the time, But so my first 2 years of high school, I was an alto 2. And then my second 2 years of high school, I was a soprano 1.
Wow.
But I think that, doing that really helped me. And even in college, I was in 2 a cappella groups at different times. And in one of them, I was a soprano. And in one of them, I was an alto, sometimes even sang with the tenors. So I think that, it just gave me a lot of different opportunities to try a lot of different things with my voice and really develop my full range. So I'm really happy that, I did all those different things.
I so love this. I know you had a part 2, Will, but I have to jump in as a singer
Go
because
ahead.
I
know.
Oh my gosh. Thank you. And I hope every singer, the reason I hope every singer is really paying attention to this, and this is kind of brings me to my question, I'm going to sneak in before his part 2, this whole development piece and the training of your ear and how critical that is in whatever you settle into as an artist. And that is like a really big concern of mine right now, is how much singers are actually developing their ear as well as their voice. And so I'd love to hear your opinion about that, and what advice, would you give a singer who didn't have that kind of training that you had, through high school? Because there's a lot of people who want to sing right now and they're getting by, and it's scary.
What's your lacking foundation?
Yeah, I think, okay, so one thing I know helped me over the years is that if I have a favorite song, sometimes I don't even remember what the melody is because I'm so used to singing harmony on top of it. Mm-hmm. And I think that's a great way to train your ear and just have fun. Like, okay, so this song back to front. So now instead of singing along with this actual melody, make up a harmony, sing the harmony on top, sing harmony in places where there aren't harmony, through the whole song, do the top harmony, do a lower harmony, just like have fun with it. I think that's something that I always like to do naturally just because I thought it was fun. And I think that's like an easy way just to play around and have fun and get better at figuring out, how to craft harmony. And that's something that, I'm not the best at as a singer. Like, I know singers who are amazing at that, they're like, it's crazy. Yeah. I'm not the best at that, but I definitely have fun with it. And I think, honestly, I'm mad that I sang soprano for so long. I do feel like my ear got worse because you're always singing the melody.
That's why they call sopranos lazy. I'm a soprano too. I'm a soprano too, but it's still more, you're sitting more on the melody than you're not as a soprano too. And you're right. I do. I feel like it makes me lazy.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you're going into some of the training aspects with your teacher and the recitals, because we have students and I want them to listen to this podcast and know that that's a huge part of your training, is getting in front of your fellow peers, your classmates, and singing and presenting and using the emotion. And that's, I'm so glad you hit on that, because we have our weekly recitals. So actually, no, it's not weekly here. We have it twice a semester. But at Howard, it was weekly. and you had to step up and show up.
But it's so important. I mean, I tell artists now, like, take a drama class, take a theater class, because that's how you're going to get more comfortable with being uncomfortable. Drama classes push you. If you take a real one, don't take a Miss Sally's on the corner, but if you actually go to an actual one that really forces you to be present and get in there, it really will help you with your stage presence.
And that was something that I did in high school as well. I did a summer camp. It was like with my same voice teacher. This program was actually through the Peabody Institute.
Oh, okay.
And I did a summer program. I think it was a month long or 6 weeks long. And we took voice, piano, music theory, and acting. And at the end of that period, we had to perform a poem, dramatically, act it out and present it. And then we had to sing, 2 pieces as well. And to do all that back to back, like to have the whole audience attention on you for maybe 15 minutes.
Yeah.
I think I was 16. That was very new for me. I was used to doing the occasional solo. Even at recitals, you might do one piece and then another student comes on.
Right, exactly.
But to do that where, try to hold the audience's attention and also feel like it's the culmination of this like intensive weeks of training and stuff, that was really cool. And I think that it was a good exercise for me to also do the acting portion of that too.
That's so awesome. You're giving me more ideas. You know me, well, I'm like, oh my God, because I see so many young singers who don't know how to grab the stage. I mean, I see mature singers that don't know how to grab the stage. And grab the stage doesn't mean it has to be dramatic. I think people think that means you got to be all over the top, and that's not what it's about. It's about interpreting the story of whatever it is you're doing.
Right. Totally. I think it's important also to study your favorite people, like really watch their concerts, watch their performances, and that'll help you figure out what your style is. Right. I determined early on for myself that, I'm not Beyonce. I'm not dancing. I maybe a little sway here and there. There's certain things you can do to get the audience excited, but know who you are. And I realized for me, like, I love watching Anita Baker. Because I love how easy she makes it seem. And that's to me is like it. Like, I want what I do to make it just seem like it's a breeze hitting you.
Right.
And I think I also really love Phyllis Hyman because she totally pulls you in the moment. Like there's this one video of her performing Living All Alone on the Arsenio Hall show that I send to a lot of my voice students because I'm like, look at this. Like, look how she makes you feel. Look how you have to pay attention to every word, every sound, everything. Like that performance is heart-wrenching.
Yeah.
In the best way possible.
And her lyrics, I mean, she it all fed in, so she could tell that story so strong like that. And Will, I'll take over. She's a singer. I'm sorry. Go, Will. You're gonna have to ask the next question.
Well, I want to get into some of the practical side of what you did to get to where you are, and some of that is you were talking about Philly and going to jam sessions and actually interacting with other musicians. And I want you to, I guess, go into what part of you, or what did you summon inside of you to go out into the jam session world, the jazz jam session world, as a singer, and because it's a very instrumental world. Plus, also, as a woman, it's a musician's male dominated situation. And I want you to talk about you going into, because I know several folks in the Philly area, and there's actually some female musicians that I know who are great and who actually got into the jam session world and actually took it over. but I want you to talk from your perspective and as a vocalist. So that, it's a different stretch. So going back to that time period in Philly, what was that like?
Well, actually, I never went to anything in Philly. I'll be honest. I went to school outside of Philly.
Got you.
And I would do, little shows at different colleges. There's so many colleges in Philly, but I would do different things here and there. But it wasn't really until I graduated and moved back home to DC that I started trying to just get in the scene a little bit more. And when I first moved back home, I did a couple of showcases, and I met somebody recommended this guitar player. His name's Pete Muldoon.
Oh, of course.
I used to play with Pete a lot.
Yeah.
And Pete said, you should come to some of the jams. And I was like, okay. So I would go first, and I would just go just to watch,
Right.
And there were other singers. A few singers would come up and stuff. And I was like, okay, this is terrifying. Terrifying. But there was a lot of people that I met on the scene who were very encouraging.
Good.
Pete Muldoon comes to mind, Elijah Balbed, Herb Scott, just throwing out names, just in case they listen, they get their props. Because I felt like, okay, maybe I could try this, So I would learn some standards. I think one of the very first ones I learned was Bye Bye Blackbird, because it's simple. It's simple. I do it in C. I was like, okay, this is as simple as it gets. Can't mess this up, right? And so I would go and, I would be sitting up there counting bars in my head, trying to figure out when I'm supposed to come back in, hoping somebody would look at me and give me a sign, because I'm like, yo, y'all are all soloing. I have no idea what I'm supposed to do here. This is terrifying. I don't know how to end this. But that's also what helped me learn how to be a band leader, because you realize, okay, when I'm up at this microphone and I called the tune, I got to figure this stuff out. I don't know allowed to curse on this show. So.
Yeah, I know.
I have to figure out, I have to direct how we're going to end it. I got to give the cues. I really got to go up there and count it in as well. I'm still not very good at that sometimes, just because when I'm switching songs, I get so caught up in the last song, I cannot get my mind to switch to, okay, what's the tempo of this next song? I don't want these long breaks. I make the drummer do it now in my own band. But, it's important to go up there, to call your tune, to know your key, to count it in, tell them the feel you want. It's just that. It was a good training.
Good.
It was also really terrifying. I still get scared when I go to jazz jam sessions, and I still feel like I don't know enough tunes. I always feel like I'm gonna call a tune and musicians are gonna roll their eyes that again. But because musicians will do that.
Oh yes,
they will. But I try not to go and sing Summertime, the simple things. Everyone's tired of hearing Summertime.
Or My Funny Valentine.
My Funny Valentine all the time, right? But I think, it's important to put yourself out there. And I didn't just do that at jazz jam sessions. I went to open mics with live bands, and I call a tune and they barely knew it, and we try to get through it together. I used to go to the Up and Up open mic a lot at this venue called Live that doesn't exist anymore. Oh, rest in peace.
I know. So many. That's
a lot of places are going. Blues
I was
Alley.
going to say Blues Alley just.
Yeah.
Blues Alley is relocating, which is. I want to give a shout out to Blues Alley too, because, and I was going to post this on social media at some point too, but Blues Alley was the first place that I ever performed at, and I felt like I could actually do this.
Yeah.
As a career. It was the first show I ever did where I felt true creative freedom, that I could really choose the songs I want. I could choose the band I want. I could make money. I could do 2 shows in a row and have the stamina to really get through them. And Blues Alley made me feel like a real artist, like a real performer. It gave me that space to leave with a check in my hand.
You need to make that post, because I made a post about it, because I've performed there, and that's like the bucket list. That's the, Blues Alley. If I can get on at Blues Alley, you talk about Phyllis Hyman's at Blues Alley,
Right.
These main people. So yeah, make that post, because you're right. When that stage is so intimate, at the same time, they treat you so much as an artist, the venue itself.
Yeah, it doesn't matter who the person was, they would treat them with that level of artistry and respect. And
They really
exactly.
do.
I had my CD release party there and performed with so many people there. So it's good.
Yeah, it's awesome. It really is. And I remember the very first time I performed at Blues Alley was in 2014. And a friend of my godmother's, my godmother always makes me sing at her holiday parties. The first time was terrifying. I just walked in and she was like, "Oh, Cecily, sing something." And it's like 100 people staring at me.
Gotta love family. It's like, what?
All the time.
But anyway, so I had been singing at my godmother's holiday parties for a few years, and her friend, April Payne, does
I know April.
Yeah,
Yep. I know April.
She does some booking at Blues Alley. And so she called me and was like, "Cecily, we had a cancellation at Blues Alley. Would you like to fill it?" And she was like, "It's in 2 weeks." And I was like, "Yes."
Perfect.
I didn't have the band book. I didn't have nothing. I was just like, yes.
Yes.
Because sometimes you just have to go out on a limb, you just gonna make it happen. And, my mom called in her troops. She called and said, "My daughter's performing at Blues Alley." All her friends got excited. So
of course,
my mom's friends came, my dad's friends came, some of my friends who could afford it came, and it really, and I pulled the band together, people I had been playing with, and it was so. Actually, I remember something happened. The very first rehearsal, the bass player I had hired didn't show up.
Oh,
He had scheduled 2 rehearsals, thank God. The bass player didn't show up. I don't know what happened. I never talked to him again. But the next rehearsal, somebody had called in their friend and they filled in, and it was great. But I just remember feeling like this is going to come together no matter what.
No matter
it's
what.
Be good.
Yep.
And I just remember sitting in the green room after the show. Someone had sent me a bottle of champagne as a, just as a celebratory thing. But I remember sitting by myself in that room, and, I guess I was 24 at the time. And just feeling like, wow, like I could actually, like I felt so good. Like I think about that moment a lot, just a feeling like I feel so complete right now as my own person, like doing what I want to do.
Yeah.
Never underestimate singing at your family's events. Because you never know who's
Because look what happens. You get booked for Blues Alley. Come on now. Thank you, Will, for bringing in the full circle.
There you go.
So true. And I've performed there every year since then, except last year.
Yeah, no, we need to do a whole episode on what you just talked about. Yeah. Because of venues and their special, what they bring, and they're being so challenged right now. I mean, I'm just saying, so many venues closing right now. It breaks my heart, especially for the kind of music that you do and I do, these need intimate spaces, so that, so we're getting close to our time. Cecily, see, I knew this was going to happen. I knew this was going to happen. I have to ask you this though, before we let you do all your social media. You kind of dropped voice lessons, your voice students. I've seen you do meditations, live meditations. You're clearly more than a singer. So, in this whole podcast, we're really pushing this right now because of everything that's going on, how much we have to tap into our different gifts and do things and pivot and what have you. So can you tell us a bit about some of the other things you do, and what kind of, real quick, kind of led you to do these outside things?
Yeah, so I honestly don't feel like I would have given myself the space to explore things outside of music-related things if not for the pandemic and the lockdowns. Because as an independent artist, you always feel like you have to hustle. Like if you turn your gaze away for a second, you're going to like miss something. Yeah. And so when everything shut down, I couldn't perform with my band, and I couldn't, people know you can't do nothing. I was like, what can I do? And, over the years I have been leading sister circles for friends and with friends. And a friend of mine had told me, like maybe 6 months before that I really needed to start doing guided meditations, like offering them to the public and like trying to do that for people. Because I had done it for friends and in private, but never, in any type of like more public way. And so I figured out that was the time.
Yeah.
If not now, then when? So
Yeah.
I decided that I would, I text my group chat of some of my girlfriends and I was like, if I did this, what would y'all think about that? Like, would y'all show up? They were like, yes, do it. I'll be there. So I was like, okay, at least 5 people will be there. So I decided I was going to start doing live guided meditations on Instagram. And I still do it Monday mornings at 9 a.m. Eastern. And I usually post them right after if people miss it. I post it to my IGTV. And now I've also started posting them to Insight Timer, which is a meditation app.
Wow.
And it started off, first thing I did before I did the guided meditations live, I started doing, I did a video of affirmations just to help people with all the anxiety and the fear around the pandemic.
Right.
Because I needed it. I wrote those affirmations for me, and I just figured I'd make a video and share it with other people, and people said that it was so helpful. I thought, okay, let me keep doing this,
Yeah.
And so I just started doing it. And
Awesome.
it became another way for me to, use my creative voice in terms of writing and in terms of different ways to use my voice. People always tell me my speaking voice is soothing. So I wanted to kind of tap into that too. And
It is.
yeah,
It's like you're clearly a singer.
It is.
Listening to you talk, I'm like, oh, she's such a singer. Her voice is just so easy right now. Good.
But yeah, it's really been a beautiful experience. It's been a growing experience for me. I started posting on that app Insight Timer, which is the most used meditation app in the country. And the first thing I ever posted got picked up as an editor's pick and featured on the homepage. So that to me was like reassurance, like, okay.
That's a message.
You're on the right path here. And then the
Yeah.
next thing I posted got chosen as editor's pick. And then the next thing I posted got put on some special playlist, So I was like, okay, I'm doing something right.
Yeah.
And then I started doing workshops. I did a workshop last July about affirmations, and I had 20 people come.
Awesome.
I did a longer, like New Year's workshop called Heal, Refresh, and Manifest, where we did meditations, affirmations, and manifestation practice. And I had 12 participants in that, and it was really, really beautiful. So, and now people have started hiring me to do meditations and, mindfulness work for their work groups. And next week, a friend of mine hired me to do one for their youth group. So it's been something that I kind of just tried, because I wanted to try it and I wanted to offer something to people. And now, I'm also making money from it. And I get paid through Insight Timer too. You get paid for that.
Listen,
Beautiful.
Cecily,
That rocks.
that really rocks. I'm actually just starting doing some guided meditations with a group of women. And and I'm so glad you pointed all this out, because this is a time, you guys, look at your gifts, look at the things you already do. It's always in your backyard. You don't have to go fishing off in the ocean, in the lake. It's usually right there. We just normalize it so much we don't recognize that this is actually something really other people could benefit from and be special. So Will. So go follow Cecily. I've seen once I saw your meditations, I said, oh yeah, we're on the same plane. All about the healing and transformation and manifestation, and it's all really, really important. I think as artists, this is the other space of our voice that we have to
cultivate and share.
Yeah, and as artists, we truly understand the need for that, because it's such a your confidence can get so knocked around in this industry, and this constant game of looking for reassurance and looking for support from people. So I think that for artists in particular, just that grounding work of practicing mindfulness and affirmations is so necessary.
Yeah, huge.
Totally.
You are an inspiration. You have inspired me. You really have. This has been fantastic. This has really been fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, we have to jump off.
She's
try
got
to keep
something to
these,
do,
and I got something to do.
We'll have to debrief on another show.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for having me. So nice to speak with you all.
Thank you for coming on the show, and yeah, we might have to have you back, or if we're doing some other things that we're talking about doing, maybe in the future, we'll have you on that too. So
yeah, all our guests have had a spiritual presence right now, so we we're gonna have to create. We keep getting signs, Will.
I know
this other kind of podcast. I know.
Let's do it.
Well, if you could just share real quick how people can follow you and get to know more about you and your music, that'd be great.
For sure. So I encourage everyone to go listen to my latest single. It's called Spirit Tell Me, which I actually co-wrote and was produced by Musina, who you talking about female producers.
Musina. Yeah,
at the beginning of the show. Yeah, I love.
She's amazing.
So go check out Spirit Tell Me. You can find all my music on all streaming platforms just look for my name, Cecily, Cecily. And then you can also find me on Instagram and Twitter at Cecily Alexa, CeciliAlexa. And like I said, join me for my Monday meditation series. It's called Awakening Meditations every Monday at 9 a.m. Eastern.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
You got a lot to hear from her. Your music is beautiful. I was hearing Denise Williams. I was hearing Minnie. I was like, yes.
Thank you.
Love it. So,
cool.
All right, Will.
We'll be back next week with another awesome podcast. And thank you all for listening and subscribing. And we will see you next week.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening, and we hope you enjoyed this podcast episode. Please subscribe to our podcast on your podcast player and leave us a rating and review. Also, please leave us a comment on our Facebook or Instagram page. And if you would like to contact us about a specific topic, you can email us at 3mbpodcast@gmail.com.